Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bristol Town Council meeting of March 15th, 2017. If you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council. The first item on this evening's agenda is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next items are submission of minutes of previous meetings. Items A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman, and through the clerk, can we pull forward I-4 to the beginning of the agenda?
I-4. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Is Mr. Holt here?
Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, item I-4 is from Robert Holt, the chairman of the Keep Bristol Clean, regarding his invitation for the council and others to participate in the 29th annual town-wide cleanup.
Welcome, Mr. Holt.
Thank you. My new assistant, Chelsea, is passing out. They'll each get a Honorable Town Council letter and also the new flyer we come up with for this year. Okay?
Thank you, Chelsea.
I appreciate putting this forward. I apologize. I was a little late because I was out sanding and I fell asleep in the recliner. But I'll try to catch up.
As long as it wasn't in the truck, we're okay with that. So.
All right. You'll see, Keep Bristol Clean, a new, folder. It's a little added to the earth, and we added a few things. And just to make it known, it's April 29th. Headquarters, Department of Public Works, Mount Hope Avenue. Sign up between 9 and 9:30, and the cleanup is from 9:30 to noon. We have 37 sites, and a phone number to call if you have a group that you want to clean a certain area or you're interested in something. And it's basically the same. Everything's there. The letter will explain itself. I gave you a letter up there. And we have a good turnout, rain or shine, so that's how we do it, rain or shine. And I see you all there, you all help, and a letter will be going out to Josh pretty soon for his help with the police. And the only thing at this time, I would like to introduce Chelsea Barton, right here behind me, my assistant this year. She is the new she is the new member of the DPW, Kevin's secretary. So she'll also take over Carol's job as KBC. I don't know if she knows what she's getting herself into, but you think people complain about trash. Watch out. With Earth Day, Carol, the other thing is I'd like to thank Carol Mello, who for many years was my assistant, KBC, and since now she has moved up to the town administrator secretary. And I want to just I think everybody should know she was there for many, many years as my assistant and helped me a lot. So I didn't realize this might be my last year. I might retire this year, which I'm pretty sure June 30th I'm going, but I will always volunteer and always help. And I talked it over with my director, so we'll see from there.
Well, Bob, we're going to stop, and we're going to give you a round of applause for the years that you put into this, plus your time in the town.
Thank you. Thank you. But like you know, it's the members, my director, my foremen, the men that I work with, and the office help that make this, all right? And the people are number one.
So, Bob, if somebody wants to be involved in this, how do they do it?
Call DPW, ask for Chelsea, 253-4100, or, they get a hold of me or anybody, But she'll have a list of what sites are available, where to go, you don't realize the stuff that falls into place. Like if you have a large group with kids up to 12, you don't want to put them near a street. You want to put them in an area, a park, where you can control them. Older kids, then we move them out to different locations. So,
So you show up and you've got bags there, you've got gloves
bags,
there,
gloves,
you've got coffee.
water, orange juice, donuts, everything for zip, for nothing. You know,
donuts.
all we want
Nice.
is your help. That's all.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had it even raining like cats and dogs, and I still had 100 people with ponchos out there. So I mean, the town is one of a kind. That's all. And as a council, you know that.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
I thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
I'll see you later.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Can we have a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, the next item is item C1. This is the second reading for adoption. This is the second reading for adoption of ordinance 2017-02. This would create a four-way stop at the intersection of Magnolia Street and Roma Street.
Make a motion to adopt this ordinance with all the governing rules and laws and all the recommendations of all the departments.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Following that is item C2. This is the first reading and call for a public hearing. This is an ordinance proposed by the zoning board, and it concerns an amendment to the cultivation issues, relating to cultivation of marijuana. It's ordinance 2017-03.
Motion, this constitutes the public hearing for April 26th.
Second?
First reading and public hearing.
First reading and public hearing.
Second.
Reseconded. Mr. Solicitor, did you want to share something?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that what this does is it bans marijuana cultivation centers from every zone in town.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second for all that's been stated already. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Next item is item D1. This is a petition of Carol Almonte for Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church Parish Center, 127 State Street, request one-day dancing entertainment license for April 7th, 2017. You have a recommendation provided by the Town Administrator and Fire Chief to approve.
I move that we approve the request.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Also, you have the petition of Michael Mizrahi of State Street Tavern, LLC, doing business as Bar 31, a request for transfer of the Class BV Intoxicating Beverage license to Kenneth Santos, TAS Incorporated, same name and location. This is to call for a public hearing on April 5th.
Motion, this constitutes a call for the public hearing on April 5th.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is on your licensing section. This is for the renewals of Cesspool licenses for 2017-2018, and the recommendation of the Town Administrator and the Department of Water Pollution Control.
Motion to approve the cesspool licenses as stated.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And also the tattooing license renewals for 2017 and 2018.
I feel like there should be comment from the left-hand side from Councilman Herreshoff, but he no longer exists. Andy, did you want to fill in anything, or no?
The basic comments are there are too many tattoo parlors in Bristol.
Yeah.
He was
But
quite
there are one or
consistent
two.
on that.
I think you're down to one.
So with
Motion
that,
to approve the renewal for her tattoo licenses.
second.
License.
There's a motion and a second. Halsey's spinning around right now. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, the next item
Could've texted him for
is
comments.
item F1. This is the second reading for adoption of the petition of Robert Thurber, 15 Cook Street, requests council consideration for accessible parking space in front of his residence. This is again, the second reading for adoption.
Upon all the recommendations and ordinances pertaining to this, make a motion to approve.
Second?
There's a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item F2. This is a petition of Ann C. Kellerman, 217 Hope Street, on behalf of the Rhode Island Coalition Against Gun Violence. Request council consideration for the support of a resolution regarding no guns in school legislation. A draft resolution is provided, as well as the two legislative bills concerning same.
Motion to approve the request for support of the resolution, no guns in schools legislation.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Ann, I know that you're here. Did you want to share anything before we voted on this? It sounds like it's moving forward. So,
Just one thing, if I might. First of all, thank you so much for being so quick to support what clearly needs to be supported. And I do enjoy coming before you every year. Gee, thank you. Seriously. But I wish I didn't have to. And it's becoming frustrating. So in addition to supporting this resolution tonight, I'm going to ask that each of you and anybody else who's hearing what we have to say about this, which is that people are allowed to carry concealed weapons in school if they on school grounds or at school functions, if they have a concealed carry permit. They're not allowed to carry them openly, but they can carry them hidden with a concealed carry permit, which is just not right. So we do this every year, and we don't get anywhere. So I'm going to ask anybody who feels that that's not the way things should be to speak to your legislators and speak loudly and speak often until we don't have to have these meetings anymore. Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you.
Mr. Solicitor, did you review this
The
resolution?
yes, I did, and it is appropriate if you do, in fact, vote to support it.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I just have a question for the chief. I'm just curious. It says that all of the law enforcement agencies, I'd like you to comment a little bit about this. And when they also talk about school grounds, so I'm thinking about if there's so what happens if there's an off-duty police officer, or if they have concealed carry permits, they stop for a short time to see their kid at a baseball game or at a school, like a sports event. Is that, because that's included in there, correct?
Law enforcement is exempt from this. Police
Even-
officers
even
are
if
allowed
they're
to carry
off-duty?
fire. Right. There are police officers 24 hours
Well, I
a day.
know, but I mean, they're
Obviously, we wouldn't
out of
want that.
uniform.
Right.
What about anybody else that has a concealed carry permit?
Anyone else with a concealed permit would not be allowed on school property with a firearm.
If this law were to be passed, is that what?
That's correct.
Okay.
Correct, right.
Thank you, Chief.
But I didn't, that was just one of my questions. I mean, can you comment about the Chiefs Association's viewpoint on this? It's referenced several times in the documentation.
Right. It comes up every year. There are mixed emotions with regards to it. There are schools where, obviously there's violence right next door, a building or something like that. So they kind of agree that maybe other people should have firearms there. I don't think that's the issue here in this community or any community nearby us. I feel comfortable saying that no one should be on that property with a firearm unless you're a law enforcement person. Because when you introduce a firearm, as you know, if the person is not well trained to deal with the totality of the circumstances surrounding that incident, things become real dangerous. And that's not what you want on a school ground or any place where there's a crowd.
Thank you, Chief. Is there any other comments or questions? So we have a motion to approve or support this resolution. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Ann.
The next item is item F3. This is the petition of Stephen Brigidi, 93 Highland Road, on behalf of Arts in Common, request for council action regarding proposed lease agreement for the Wally School building.
Good evening, Steve.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm Stephen Brigidi, Bristol resident, Bristol business owner, and a member of Arts in Common. I'm joined, I want to mention, by several members here. Well, Michael Rich, senior professor at Roger Williams University, member of Arts in Common, also our chair. Craig Fisher is professional architect, Bristol resident, member, vice chair of our group, member of Arts in Common. And also, Andy Workman is our provost and a member of our board of Arts in Common, provost at Roger Williams University. So each of us, if as called upon, might entertain any questions that you might have. Basically, we're looking to receive and move forward on a lease agreement that goes back to, well, last fall. We stated very clearly, I believe, in a letter. This is our third appearance here, as you know. In our first appearance, we stated pretty clearly in a letter what our intentions were for the rehab of Wally School, to basically make it the third proud member in the fleet of buildings, former school buildings, as part of a very, very vibrant arts district here in Bristol. And we did return, I believe it was early January, at a meeting to reiterate our intentions and our plans, and to report that we were successful upon receiving your letter from the 30th of September. We were successful in getting the grant. Your letter, to be clear, was your intention to go forward into a lease arrangement with us. We were successful at the State Council in getting the cultural facilities grant. I think you have some documentation of that. There's a certificate also signed by Governor Raimondo to that effect. And in early February, we were joined by our town administrator and several of our public officials in a ceremony at Linden Place, where we were proudly represented, and we were one of 30 recipients statewide to receive the cultural facilities grant as seed money to move forward, which we are going to be matching. So we're looking to receive the lease, activate our plans, and proceed. Time is of the essence because of the agreement with the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts. And we're here to respond to any concerns, issues, any questions you might have on what our intentions are, which we would hold to our letter from the 22nd of August, 2016. But to address anything new that needs to be addressed at this point, myself or members of our group.
Okay. Tim?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think you guys are a great group, and I'm in support of what you're doing. I want Wally School's doors open. It's been 19, 20 years, I believe. It's been a long, long time.
Longer than that, believe it or not. Yeah.
Really? Okay, well. I just had a question in regards to the lease. You've obtained the $50,000 lease. What are the plans to look out for more grants? And also, any quotes or statement of work where that's going to be? I'd love to see, I know you said the responsibility of the town is for abatement of the building, and then you guys were planning to do more renovations. So that's a little gray area for me, so I was just wondering if maybe you could clear that up for me.
Yes. Well, we have $50,000 that we're receiving from the Cultural Facilities Grant. We are obliged to match that, so we have $100,000 that we'll be putting into this for the preliminary plans, architectural drawings, and everything that is part of a pre-construction phase. At that point, we will be going back to the State Council on the Arts, showing evidence of good faith in going forward, and we anticipate being quite successful in getting a second round cultural facilities grant. That is not going to complete the project. We'll be fundraising for grants. We'll be seeking commercial lenders as needed. We've already done some research into that area, which I know some of us can address better than myself. But we are prepared to see this through upon completion in 2 phases, and ready to take students from our main tenant, Roger Williams University, in the fall of 2018.
So, thank you, Mr. Brigidi. I understand that you've received the $50,000 grant. Congratulations. I'm wondering what the current update is on both matching funds for that grant as well as additional funds for further operations for Arts in Common, and the progress that you're making there.
Well, we have to go back and show the lease to the State Council on the Arts. We are prepared to raise the $50K to match that within the next several months. And then we're going to be able to better articulate exactly the funding that's needed. There's going to be a timetable that's laid out. I think we have something in the packet also about the phases itself. So we don't have the complete secured package as necessary, because we know this is going to be well over $1 million ultimately. But between other worthy foundations, Champlain, who are interested in working with us, we're going to be going those routes that are interested in bricks and mortar. There are other educational foundations we'll be looking at, including Rhode Island Foundation, and we'll turn every stone, Andy, as needed.
So you haven't secured any additional funds beyond the $50,000 initial commitment?
Let me just, I'm Craig Fisher.
Thank you.
So in regard to that, our intentions were to sort of actively initiate a fundraising effort. The fact that we've sort of encountered a roadblock in the process of obtaining the draft lease made it impossible for us in good faith to go out without having the board recommit once again to the lease under the terms that we all mutually agreed to. So in terms of fundraising, we've sort of put that on hold. We have a commitment from Roger Williams University to lease 1/3 of the gross space available at Wally School, and have looked into being able to leverage that lease into obtaining private financing. And there are banks that have divisions specifically committed to lending to nonprofits. And from my outreach, I've gotten a very sort of favorable response. So, particularly because we have Roger Williams' commitment to the building.
Thanks. One more question. Can you comment as to the operating budget or anticipated operating budget for Arts in Common to give us a sense of the idea, an idea of the impact that this new organization will have? So what is the annual operating budget, and can you make some comments as far as your feelings as to the sustainability of that budget over the next 5 years?
Well, again, we're anticipating entering into an agreement with Roger Williams for 1/3 of the building. That their commitment to the building will justify an ability to service debt if we take the route of going for private finance. So what we see is a combination of three things in terms of our operating expense related to our oversight of the Wally School. The first being an ability to service the debt if we, again, take that route. The second would be a percentage of retention from the cash flow to address any emergency issue that would arise in terms of the ongoing maintenance for the facility. And then finally, an amount of money for the administration of the building. And that would be a sort of a limited amount of money. What we anticipate is pursuing funding through a reapplication to RISCA if we can tie down the lease agreement, and that will give us an opportunity to perform on the first grant money that we're receiving from them. And if we successfully perform on that, they're very open to a reapplication, which is their final tranche of funds that are going to be made available. So we'll go for, if we can do it by the beginning of August, we will send in a letter of intent to apply for funds way in excess of their $250,000 limit. So they have ample funds available, and they're very enthusiastic about our project, and in fact have used us as a model to try and stimulate similar projects in other communities. So we anticipate applying for a substantial amount of additional funds through RISCA grant. There are other grant opportunities, and in fact, We've been in negotiation with a grant consultant specifically to sort of accelerate the process of fundraising and obtaining additional grants for the purpose of fully developing out the building. As I said, in combination with that is our willingness to take the route of seeking private financing.
So, again, I'm curious of the size of your operational budget. Dollar amount?
At this point, without tying down, these aspects, we've not generated a firm operational budget.
Okay. So you have three categories. One, debt service, which you say would be offset by your anchor tenant, Roger Williams. That's easy. I'm assuming that's a direct correlation.
Actually, I assume actually that the proceeds from the Roger Williams lease will exceed what the debt service.
Okay, maybe to cover maintenance and repair?
The idea would be that we'll be able to use some of those funds for the retention and for administrative purposes.
Okay, of which you don't have a budget for yet, administratively?
I mean, again, without sort of fully committing to this project, which has pretty much been on hold since we've received resistance after having received 2 confirmations.
I think, irrespective of potential resistance, I think it is responsible for us to consider. I think it's irrespective of the resistance, I think it is the responsible thing to do is to create a budget, understand what the exposure out there and what is needed in order to make this organization and this effort sustainable. I think without even a budget for year one, I think from a council point of view, allocating such an important resource to our community, to an organization this early on in their development stages, might be challenging. I think, at least for me. I'd like a little bit more comfort that where we know and you know what you're getting yourself into. We see annually the challenges that nonprofits have, hiring and retaining executive directors through grant funding. They come to us for the human resource grants annually. And I just think it's worth noting that an organization like this is going to need a groundswell of support. And I'm wondering, irregardless of some of the maybe concerns you've witnessed over the past month, I don't think any of that would prevent you from pushing forward with developing a responsible financial budget.
I think, Councilman Tiska, this council did support the intent of this initiative, and thank you for coming before us again for this ongoing conversation. The crucial part, there's a couple that I'm going to refer to, is just expounding on what he said, is those components, I think, need to be in place on your end also, whether Roger Williams is part of that plan, Mr. Fisher, to even draft and solidify that lease you're looking for, because we need to understand, as Councilman Tiska said, the sustainability. I know on a 5-year increment, you mentioned a time frame and commitment, and I think that's important for both parties to understand that time frame and commitment as this process would go forward with that lease. Mentioning the lease, but even before the lease, on our responsibility that was talked about is the lead removal of that building and the cleanup. And this is where I'm going to refer to our solicitor and administrator. Is I think our responsibility as a council and on behalf of the residents is to know that cost. We're going through budget, and I think without knowing that cost and even to approve those measures, how can we go forward with opening up any doors to let anybody in that building?
Well, I'm sorry. Was that a question? Or
I was asking them to answer that.
I don't have an exact cost. We haven't had an estimate done yet, but I will tell you, I entered into the talks with Arts in Common. I met with them approximately 3 times, and I came in with open eyes, and I thought it was a great project, but as we moved along, I realized that it wasn't going to be an expense for the town. I'll cite one of the first emails I got from Doug Popovich from Arts in Common. And it's pretty much a request for $200,000 for the removal of toxins from Wally School before AIC takes possession of the building, including lead paint, asbestos tiles, replacement of laterals and heating boiler, all insulated with asbestos wraps and boards. The intention is to replace the existing boiler with a gas-fired hot water system. That was the first email that I got, and from that point on, I started looking at it a little bit differently. It appears that we're still going to be investing money into the property, and in the end, or during those 10 years, with possibly an option to extend, we're going to lose options with the building. In Arts in Common, they have a great program, but we're running 2 successful buildings now. And last year, at very minimal rents, and I did the math, 10 tenants at Reynolds are paying an average of 69 cents a foot. That's with utilities included. In Byfield, 14 tenants, their average is 55 cents a square foot, well below market value. With that, we netted almost $107,000 in 2016 on 2 buildings. So in looking at the best interests of the people of Bristol, I started looking at things differently, and I said, well, the people of Bristol did give us a mandate to repair our buildings. We passed a $17 million bond back in November. And I talked to our finance director, and I asked what would it cost for us to repair the building, whether it be $1 million, $1.5 million, and to bring it back online. I got the square footage for the building. It's over 6,500 square feet of classroom space. At $1 a square foot, that's over $75,000 a year that would be returned to the town of Bristol. And I understand we're not in a business here, but the concept would be, and the more people I'm talking to about it, is we need to keep our options open. We have groups, whether it be a youth basketball league, one of the recreation departments, gymnastics groups that need space, the health equity zone, which needs a place for counseling and outreach. We still have a need for the buildings, and keep in mind there is talk, and it may be feasible someday, going back to that 2008 building study, to consolidate our 2 municipal buildings into one and put it on the common. So my concern is not that Arts in Common can't do it. I just think we're going to limit our options for the next 10 years. And we've been given a mandate from the people of Bristol to repair our buildings. We're willing to do it. We think we can financially do it. It's unfortunate that the timing coincides with Arts in Commons. They have the same goal we do, and that's to get one of our cherished buildings back up online. And I think that's the ultimate goal. But we do still have interest in those buildings, and we still have uses for them.
Aside from those options, though, I think as a council, you put a price tag of $200,000 from an email. What is the true cost to even have anyone go in that building, with all due respect to this entity that's looking to occupy that? Aside from our options, we're in a discussion of putting all the variables that's attached with this discussion. And I think as a council, how do we even enter a lease agreement with anybody not knowing that major component of that removal, which is our responsibility for that liability of that building?
I know. I can't give you a good quote on that.
Because, as Mr. Brigidi said, and I am fully aware that when you secure grants, there is time frames that are, there's a chance that you might lose them given the different grants in that time frame that's attached with it. I think from the council's intention, there was a lot of wording that's in front of us of what you expected from us, and we heard from you of your expectations on your behalf the last time you were in front of us. So I just, before we even could get to the lease part, I think we as a council and the town have to know that first part of how much that real cost is going to be. Mary?
I would just want to make a few different comments, and I feel like some of this is reminiscent of another discussion on another project. I'm bothered by a few different things. One is that has sat idle for 20 years, and the reason that no one has invested in it, when we have tried and gotten very little response over the years, I think one time we put it out and we got no response, am I correct, Diane? Is because it is $1 million or more to fix. And what we have here is with like a partnership investment of us maybe spending maybe $200,000, the building gets fixed and tenants go into it without the town having to pay that over $1 million cost, which it's always been estimated to get that up and running appropriately is going to be an expensive proposition. So, I mean, I think that's something to look at. Because we're still going to be looking for similar tenants. Like Roger Williams already has some space in Reynolds, I believe, or in one of the schools. So, Byfield. So I mean, I think the point is that no matter how you look at it, it's still going to be the similar kinds of programming in all of those buildings. And if they're in Byfield and then they move and consolidate in one location, then there's more space for us to rent other people, to other people, or to use it for some of the other issues. So I think you have to keep that in mind. I'm also concerned about the grant and the timing of it, because this is a particular project that was a bond issue. Am I correct? Is that right, Steve? Yes. And I would imagine that there could potentially be another bond issue in 2018 that the state might put forward, and people of Rhode Island tend to be generous on passing the bonds. And so there is the potential to get a big chunk of this funded through grants. And I understand the issue that has been explained to us in terms of the $50,000 instead of the $250,000 that was applied for. Number one, I've been in that grant world a long time. You very rarely get what you ask for. I can say that. Number two, a new organization, but a new organization that has principals who have been involved with many, many, many other organizations. So I don't view this group as sort of, I don't know how to say it, but I think your eyes are wide open as to what you're getting into, because you've all been involved with many other nonprofits, I think, in getting them up and going, and some not nonprofit but real estate issues on your own end. So I think you all are very well aware of what you're getting into. Certainly would not be the first project that we have been involved with in terms of a group to do a partnership like this. And then I looked back at the August 22nd memo, because one of the issues that I kept hearing was that the town would now have to put money into this. And people kind of thought that we wouldn't have to. But then there was the framework that was presented to us in August. And it talked about the maintenance of the building, the utilities, and some of the issues as us as a landlord. And then the letter to Rhode Island, to the group that I believe was submitted to RISCA, says that we reviewed the framework and are in agreement with it. So we've accepted those premises that we'd have to put some money into it. And that went forward with this grant application. So that does disturb me to sort of renege on that at this point when there's potentially other money to come, because it's not going to give us a very good reputation if somebody else is to go in there and has, like, how good is your word? And what would be, if I was a granting agency and many of the people at RISCA have been there for many, many years, and we sort of renege on one, and then somebody else, we come in with another one, like, what is the chances of getting funding again? And I know in many respects for that particular organization, and it may not be in every one of their funding aspects, you do have to have a nonprofit organization or some sort of arts partner. I don't know if the town could just develop this on their own. I'm not really sure with this particular pool of RISCA money, but if you're going in for some of the arts in schools, for example, you've got to have the artist doing that application with you. So I just don't want to turn away from a potential funding source that could go on in the next election and get another several $1 million allocated to it that we would be eligible for to finish up this project. So that's It's my thoughts.
Not to repeat myself, but I agree with Councilwoman Perella, as I stated in the beginning, of the intent and the support from this council. It's just I hear a lot of words such as maybe, anticipating, these are words of potential, but I believe everyone in this room needs some hard numbers, because what if it's not $200,000 to do the lead removal and clean it up so it can be occupied, even to have the partnership? Because that's what is needed. Even before you take your steps to occupy and move into the building, that's our responsibility. And if that comes back to $1 million, we need to know that. That's my only point here tonight, that we need to assess that.
Well, we do need to know that. I have one other quick question. Somebody said there was no budget. You didn't have to submit a budget for
No,
operation?
We have a very firm budget in terms of the first phase of construction and what we anticipate will complete the building. So that was part of our obligation, and in fact, once we got the initial approval from the town council to move forward with a commitment to our letter of understanding for the lease and a commitment for 10 years from the town council on the building, we put together the necessary architectural drawings and the estimates that were all submitted to RISCA.
So do you have estimates on what that lead, and have people looked at that?
No, because at the time, the town recognized their responsibility to address the mitigation for the lead and for the asbestos. And in fact, on August 30th, there was a report that was produced by Alpha Environmental, commissioned by the town to do an analysis of the mitigation work that required to be done. So that you have the...
So Diane, do you have that information? Could you tell us what...
I just have a copy of the report.
No, I'm asking Diane Williamson,
Yeah.
just right, if she knows what this amounts are, do we know?
Oh, I was just going to say,
Are they in here?
they're in the packets. The August 30th report that's being referred to is in your packet.
But I don't see any dollar value
There's no
in that.
amount, though.
Okay,
No.
yes, okay, I didn't see that,
It talks
right.
about the fact that there is definitely asbestos that must be abated
Right.
in the floor tiles, in the heating pipes, et cetera, but it does not have a dollar value.
Right.
Well, and
Do we have that, though? Diane, do you have anything along the line over the years as you've been working on this project?
We have, I guess I should use the microphone. Sorry, I came late. I lost my chair at the table.
You can come right down here, there's a chair. I know you just didn't want to walk in front of the camera probably, but there's a chair.
We'll vamp for you, Diane.
Yeah, we'll let you get stuff.
So, as you might be aware, the town did commission a feasibility study last year, and we have, I'll say, sort of an opinion of probable cost, which is, something that the engineers, then the architects give you as the framework for a ballpark price. We haven't gone out to bid, and we don't have hard numbers. These are just sort of estimate numbers. And so it's really still up to a hard number for a budget.
So,
But what is that?
Oh.
yes.
Do you know?
Well, I had gone through the feasibility study. When we got the email asking for $200,000, that was actually one of the first questions that we all had was, where did that number come from? And I looked at the feasibility report, and just picking out off the list things that I knew were associated with it, but, not definitely certain if there was going to be more to it, I came up with the neighborhood of $90,000 for the lead and the asbestos abatement. But again, that's a very, very, preliminary number based on this
So would you say it would be
feasibility study.
something like up to 200,000 that would be potential?
Potentially, yes.
Not
depending
over
on,
that, not like $1 million?
$1 million would, well, the whole building, I think,
whole
is
building.
estimated at $1 million, yeah.
So I want to see if I can kind of bring this all back in again. We've talked about a lot of things. I've heard concern from council members and others, the administrator, about budget, 5-year requests, lead and asbestos abatement, the cost involved with what would be our initial cost of the town if we committed to this. What does the 10-year lease look like? Conversations that have happened over the last few months were this council was told that you weren't looking for any money. Let me finish this. You weren't looking for any money, both the most recent time that you were here and before that, but you're looking for the town to pay for the abatement cost. Don't worry, I'm going to get to the end of this. So if it's our responsibility, and then it's our responsibility. But we need to know these things. So let's bring this all back together again. This council needs to know a few things to take the next step. You need to know a few things so you can take the next step. You mentioned seeing a copy of a lease seems very appropriate to me, so you need to get a copy of that. Then I think it would also be appropriate, and I'm not sure what my colleagues think, is that that we have you spend some time with the administrator and a council member or two, or just the administrator, and maybe kind of get some answers to this, because I can't see us moving forward with a next step until all of these things get a check mark next to them. You obviously can't take the next step without these things with a check mark next to them. Our next meeting, and it would seem that we could get these things done before our next meeting, is, Mr. Clerk, April 5th, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if this happened prior to that, we would need information that I've heard stated this evening that would include, but not limited to, what's the probable cost of the initial investment from the town that gets you in the door? What does that 10-year lease look like? We want to. It has been expressed that a budget needs to be presented, and that level of clarity, or whether it's granular or otherwise, we can discuss. That's what it sounds like to me. I know for myself, what I'd like to see from you is what are the timelines that you are proposing for this? When do you believe that you can have these grants in place? What grants will you be? You mentioned a few already this evening. When would those be in place? And what's a pass-fail? Meaning, if you can't get grant number 1 and 2 by whatever date, I'm throwing out December 31st. I don't really mean that, just an idea. If it doesn't happen within a certain time frame, what is the next step after that? So it would seem to me, if we can put all of these things together, answer these questions, we can take a next logical step. Right now, we're not going to, because you have a lot of questions that need answered, and so do we. Right? If I missed anything, colleagues, please tell me. I think it's appropriate that it come back to us with much more clarity here.
Oh, I think that there's one big issue. That is, it's like a chicken and egg. That's the problem when you're dealing with the grant world. If you don't have a place to do this set down, and the council is wavering, you're not going to be able to apply for those grants. So whatever timeline they put together, I mean, a lot of these foundations are only once a year, some are twice a year, some are ongoing, rolling applications. It's a little hard to pin it down because you need to have your place. So, I mean, right now you're working on this premise that you have this place, and I think that's okay. But I mean, in the meantime, at some point you need to nail it down for RISCA, correct? Yes. What is that time?
Yeah.
Does April 5th, is that too long?
We could work with that, but we'd like to see a draft of the lease, because there may be specific questions.
So that seems very appropriate, so we can get that to you.
We don't have a draft, do we?
Michael Rich.
No. That's what we
We've
have
been in
here.
touch with RISCA,
One second.
and they've been very patient. So we've explained to them the current situation, and that this is requiring more negotiation than any of us had hoped. And they will be as patient as possible.
Excellent.
The longer we wait, however, the harder it is to meet the match.
Understandable.
And to show completion of that first phase in order to apply for the next round of grants. So I think April 5th is doable. I certainly wouldn't want to go beyond that.
Is there a way that we could get what those actual costs are? We're going to have to, is there something that would go in that would give us a more definite figure, Diane, on that, without going out for bid?
I would like to review with Richard Pimenta and the town administrator and just make sure that we're pulling from the right columns on these costs, and then we can report that back to you.
Well, that's my concern. By state statute, what our responsibility is if we're in partnership with this entity. Without going out request for proposal, I just don't want to sit here 6 months from now and then a cost comes in. I'm just saying on behalf of myself, because we went down this road and we're rushing everything and the numbers change. We've been in this situation before, and it wasn't too long ago with Byfield School. So I just don't want to have the taxpayers, once again, we should do our due diligence as counselors and get the real number.
Okay, so, Tim, did you want to add anything?
No, I was just going to say, so the plan would be that the Arts in the Common Group would work with the town administrator to get all this information together. I think it was a good plan, Mr. Chairman.
But just
They
having...
would get everything together and come back to us on April 5th.
So points, so I think we went through, we listed them, we don't have to go through them again, but what's the upfront cost involved with it? And then an estimate on those upfront costs. And I think we can do that with, you mentioned Richard, I think there are others that Richard could work through to make sure that we're not missing anything. We're never going to catch anything, we're not going out to RFP on this in this time frame, but we need to know a real number. We need to look underneath things to make sure that we know what's going on. And then timelines of success. You know, where is this money coming from? It's okay wherever it is, but you need to tell us, when is it going to be? If you don't get it, is there a point in which you can't move forward at that point? Is this a done deal? Don't answer it right now. But work through these things. Come back to us with those answers. Mr. Administrator, does that sound? Okay. All right. So, did I miss anything? Did we miss anything? I'll take that back.
Well, the only thing I would just say is regardless of what the, we may not move forward ourselves as a town if those initial costs are too high, but the bottom line, if any of that work is going to get done and that building is going to be put back into service, those basic projects have to be done, whether we lease it out to another organization or we keep it ourselves to then lease out to other tenants. So that has to get done anyway.
Absolutely. It's just the different scenarios, the timetable of if we're with this entity or on our own.
Right.
Yes.
And
so I agree.
the administrator mentioned a great point, which is the buildings, if we were to take them over, I'm sorry, it is ours. If we were to take the next step to do the repairs on them, it could reflect, I'm going to use your number, was $75,000 a year, if I'm correct with that. So I would say that maybe also, let's not avoid that. Let's deal with the elephant in the room and say, okay, what does Arts in Common realize? Maybe it's not a dollar figure. What is the intrinsic benefits from Arts in Common? So maybe address that at our next meeting. So talk about what we're talking about here. Does that make sense? So, okay. So, if I could get a motion, and it would seem to me that the motion would be that we continue this to our next meeting with the information that we've asked after Arts in Common works with the administrator. I'll stop right there.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, has the draft lease been drawn up that we could at least see and address any particular points of it?
Okay. Mr. Administrator, is there a...
No. Okay. There's a draft lease, actually, there's an expense associated with it. You know, we need legal counsel for that. And again, I wasn't about to spend money on a project not knowing what the outcome was going to be. So...
Okay.
And maybe I can help here.
Thank you.
Before we draft a lease, which I can easily do, there needs to be agreement on the business terms. We need to know who's paying for what the monthly rent's going to be, maintenance, et cetera.
Does that make sense, gentlemen?
There has to be some kind of communication back and forth about what the basic business terms are. They can all be plugged into a lease very easily.
So what you're saying is without that information, you can't do it, but with that information, it's not that big of a deal.
And I can easily put one together by April 5th, assuming the business terms are agreed to.
Gentlemen? Okay. So we expect to have great dialogue on April 5th with clarity to the questions, clarity to your questions, and then we can make an informed decision.
So
Is your concern you don't want the draft lease on April 5th when you walk into this chamber?
Right, I'd like to see something prior to that so we can address anything that may come up from it. Dollar amounts notwithstanding, there may be other questions. We're looking for what we originally requested was a 10-year commitment. At the end of the day, 10 years, hope to renew, that we're successful, we'll carry on, but it goes back to the town. And we would bow out if we were not successful in generating the kind of revenue, Steve, that you're talking about. We believe we can do that and make it profitable for the town.
Excellent.
I might suggest, to get the ball rolling, that you detail exactly what you just said, Mr. Brigidi.
As best as I can.
In a one-page term sheet, deal points sheet, and then maybe that starts the ball rolling with conversations with administration to get to the point where our solicitor says, which we need a list of business terms. And so I would say no better place to start than what you want and lay that out, and I think then the ball can get rolling from there.
So we'll see you in a few weeks.
See you.
Motion and a second to continue. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the public service appointment section. You have a recommendation from the fire chief regarding the Board of Fire Engineers, item G1A.
Motion to approve the Board of Engineers submitted by the fire chief.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
You also have the request for reappointment to the Harbor Commission from James C. Dollins of 37 Clifton Road and Daniel Egan of 3 Everett Street, both currently serving. This would be for terms to expire in March of 2020.
Motion to reappoint Mr. Egan and Mr. Dollins to the Harbor Commission.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
We have the Harbor Commission alternate. There are 2 positions with terms to expire in March of 2020. We have the interest for reappointment expressed by Richard Scott Medeiros of 8 Herzig Street.
Motion to reappoint Mr. Medeiros.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The Zoning Board of Review alternate, there are 2 with terms to expire in March of 2019. You have Donald S. Kern of 32 Defiance Avenue and Derek Tipton of 10 Dixon Avenue, both seeking reappointment.
Motion to reappoint Donald Kern and Derek Tipton.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Have the Waypoisett Trust, I'm sorry, the Tree Warden. This was with term to expire in January of 2018. This matter was continued from your February 13th meeting. You have the interest expressed by Stephen Saraceno, who would like to be reappointed, and also former Tree Warden Michael King, who would be interested in being appointed.
Is there a motion?
I would like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to appoint Michael King as the tree warden.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Okay, motion fails. Is there a new motion? Is there a new motion?
I'll make the motion to appoint Stephen to the harbor, or to the tree warden position.
Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion. I mean,
Okay.
should we be interviewing these 2? I mean, one of the issues here...
You did.
Oh, we did?
That was the
We did.
evening you couldn't be here.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Mr. Chairman?
Sir.
If I may, this was at a workshop, the interview.
Yes.
And there were 2 lengthy interviews, and I remember referring back to the charter. It's an appointment by the council, but the position does report, the tree warden reports to the town administrator. I am giving a strong recommendation for Michael King. He is local. He served in the position for 2.5, almost 3 years at no pay. For personal reasons, I know he has a family. It got to be too much at that point in time, so he elected to resign from the position. Since then, it's become a paid position, and he's since then expressed interest in reapplying for the job. From what I understand, he did a very good job. I've spoken to him a number of times. I think he's going to be a proactive tree warden. He lives in town. He had a very good presentation, and I just want to put it on record that my support is for Michael King to be tree warden. I think I can work well with him, and the trees in town are a priority, and I want the best possible person that's going to be able to fill that position. And,
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that both of them did a good job. I mean, Michael did a good job when he was doing it, as you just summed it up, that there wasn't any he wasn't able to do it. It was hard to find someone to do it without some financial aspect to it. The other person who took it on also did a very good job. So, I don't know, I wasn't able to come to that meeting that night. But.
My reasoning, Mary, is that they're both great candidates. I'm leaning towards the local candidate only because I think, Michael King did a good job. I'm thinking back to an area where the McWilliams, we had an issue there, and he was very good with his reports, and he was starting a process where we could start attacking the tree issues that we were having. And what I like about Michael is that he does live in town. He's going to be conscious all the time of what's going on, and if we really need him, he's here.
So why was there not a second? Why wasn't there a second for his nomination? I mean,
I'm just pointing out the reasonings why my motion, just to give you some context.
I don't have an opinion one way or the other, because they both did a very good job.
So, Councilman Sweeney, you also asked the question of one of the tree wardens that how do we know he's not going to resign again? And his answer was, I can't guarantee you that. That was specifically to your question, was it not?
My question?
Your question of, can you guarantee that you will not resign from the position once again?
I don't recall. I'd have to go back to the minutes and check, but I'm not sure. But
So there was a motion without a second. I think to move the process along, I think the next step would be to nominate the other candidate, Mr. Saraceno.
Oh, we did.
We already did, and there's a second. We're just
that was a discussion.
Yeah.
we're just talking about why.
I think we're fortunate that we have two good candidates, and this is what happens when you have two good candidates.
Do you think that there's any need to interview them again and to
No, I think we
get
spent
another
a good long time interviewing both candidates. We took a long time with them. They answered the questions that we asked. Okay. So I'm going to call for a vote. We have a motion and a second to reappoint Steve Saraceno for the tree warden. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So we have, was that 4-1? I'm sorry.
I said aye.
I only saw two.
Okay. So I saw.
You might want to ask for a show of hands.
I'm going to ask for a show of hands on that one. So all in favor to reappoint Steve Saraceno? Okay. All opposed? One opposed?
You really don't oppose.
I wasn't here for the interviews, that's why.
You don't oppose appointments. It's just in favor.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So it would just be like a abstaining, was it 3?
3, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item is the Waypoisett Trust. This is with term to expire in January of 2019. You have interest expressed by Stephen E. Johnson, currently serving for reappointment.
Motion to reappoint Steve Johnson.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And finally, the Bristol County Water Authority, with term to expire in February of 2020. You have correspondence from Paul Bishop, currently serving, that he is not seeking reappointment. No other applicants.
So I believe we make a motion to advertise. No.
We will do it again.
Okay. There's a motion to advertise. Is there a second?
Second.
And I'm assuming that with all of our candidates, we send a letter of thanks for his service. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm going to stop right here, as I always do, and say thank you to all that give time back to the community. We very much appreciate it. We know it's not easy sometimes. Giving your time, effort, and energy is appreciated, and this council appreciates you, so thank you.
Yeah.
The next item is item H1. This is from Councilman Stewart, continued from December 4th. This has to do with the previously discussed Bristol County Water Authority interconnect with East Providence and Pawtucket.
So we're in the process of scheduling that tri-town meeting. It's becoming a little more difficult to get all parties, especially during an active season between all three towns. and everyone involved to get that, but we're on our way to have that tri-town meeting. There was already a meeting with the state legislators from the Bristol County Water Authority in which they were briefed on the anticipation of going forward with the Pawtucket Ave to East Providence 24-inch pipeline, but also the discussion was the assets and liabilities that, you know, as ratepayers here in the three towns, that we still have ownership in the Swansea Reservoir and the Anawan, and they have been investing some of the monies to upkeep for that, and it's kind of intricate with state law and the deeds that are involved with that. So the last Tri-Town Council meeting, we were in support to go to Pawtucket because we need a redundant water source. We all agree upon that. Just going forward with some of the discussions throughout the state with the State Water Resource Board and the increases that they're proposing on a statewide level is just astronomical. I think they just raised it 11%. But also another topic that's in discussion is trying to get all the water utilities and authorities in a discussion statewide because of the asset of water. We still have a plant, and I know some of my colleagues in the past question the commodity of water and discussions with Swansea. And this is why this Tri-Town meeting and the ongoing discussions with the legislator to do with our water asset here in the East Bay is crucial, especially in today's day and age. So I just want to extend that to the residents that we are keeping on top of this going forward, and I say I'm hoping, Lou, that we can get a meeting probably by June, so I would say continue this item till July. That way we can give an update after the Tri-Town meeting.
So a meeting after the 4th of July, maybe I think it's the 5th of July.
Yeah.
My memory's correct.
Oh, is it the 5th?
I believe so, yes.
Yes.
We are
is.
committed. Oh, there
Yes.
you go. See that?
You need a second?
Yes, we need a second.
Second.
So there's a motion and a second to continue to the July 5th meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item I-1. This is from the Director of Parks and Recreation regarding the Year 3 preliminary award for the Bristol Health Equity Zone.
Walter.
Stay seated. I just wanted to inform the council that we have received our Year 3 award from the Health Equity Zone through the Department of Health, and it was $318,000 for this year, which brings the grand total amount to approximately $750,000 since day one, since Diane helped put that first grant together. We've had a lot of success, but we are, as you know, this is a 4-year grant, so we have one more year after this year, and the focus on Year 3 is really to create a sustainable model so that after Year 4, when the grant goes away, we can keep all these initiatives growing and going, and people in Bristol receiving the benefits of it. So to do that, we're really looking at pulling together our collaborative so that all the nonprofit organizations in the communities can manage the initiatives that we're creating. So it will move from the Department of Parks and Recreation to Thrive by 5 and beyond, which Emily will explain a little bit about. The fiduciary will still be done by the town through the town treasurer. But I'd like to kind of ask Emily and Greg just to talk about the successes that we've had and where we're going from here.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Emily Spence. I'm a Bristol resident and one of the coordinators of the Bristol Health Equity Zone. Thank you for hearing us tonight. The Thrive by 5 and Beyond group is a group of social service agencies that meet monthly at the Quint Gamlin Community Center to share information about their programs to better serve the families that we work with in Bristol and Warren. We run parenting workshops and professional development, and we're about to run our 4th annual Family Resource Fair on April 8th. I invite you all to come and join us for that event. But we've been working closely with the group of agencies to bring together the services so that we're not duplicating services, that we're kind of streamlining things more, and as I said, better able to serve families that we work with. Craig's going to talk a little bit more about that transition. My other part is to highlight some of the successes that we've had in year 2 that will continue on into year 3. We've had many. I'll just highlight a couple of them. We've been running a diabetes prevention program. Maria Ursini has been running that program out of the Senior Center. It's actually become a model throughout the state. A lot of the other DPP programs look to Maria and hold statewide meetings here to get feedback on how she's been successful, but they've had 3 different groups throughout this year. About 20 people have met. They meet weekly for the first 16 weeks, and then they meet monthly thereafter, and they've lost a total of 130 pounds altogether. And this is a lifestyle change program, so they're losing weight and learning, how to maintain that lifestyle. We also are running monthly cooking demonstrations at Franklin Court. Courtney Poissant is our food access navigator, and she teaches residents how to make a healthy meal. This is a grant that was funded initially through Roger Williams University, and it's been so successful that it's now going to be funded through our HES grant. We have the first 40 people who attend the cooking demonstration not only learn how to make a meal, get to taste the meal, but they also get to take all the ingredients home to make that meal at home. So we've gotten terrific feedback for that program. It started with about 15 people who would come monthly, and now we have 40 people, and people are coming like an hour early to be there so they can make sure they take the ingredients home, and they get the benefit of having a community meal and learning some cooking tips. Year 2, we also conducted the bike audit and walk audit in the fall of last year, and in year 3, we're going to be creating a bike and walking plan to talk about safe routes with our working group. We also have been working hard to grow a recovery community here in Bristol. Last year, we held our first rally in September. This year, we're going to be holding our second rally on September 30th. But we've been working recently trying to coordinate services with East Bay Center and Anchor Recovery, who both are eager to bring services here to our community if we can find a location. So I've been working hard, and we have several possibilities. I'm hoping to apply for a grant to maybe start up a pilot program to bring services to the community to help address issues in that area. We've also been expanding all kinds of other partnerships. We recently had a faith-based leaders dinner at the community center. We invited all of the leaders of the local churches in Bristol and Warren to have a dinner at the community center, and we had about 4 of them turn out and had some great dialogue about how they can work together. We can all work together, but some of them have not really collaborated at all, except on the parade route as they're, walking down on the 4th of July. So there was a lot of exciting discussion about how we can work together to benefit our community, both with some of our HES initiatives and then some initiatives that they would like to work on their own. And we continue to collaborate with Roger Williams University and expand that partnership. We have a lot of students who are participating in our initiatives, and they're getting some great experience being a part of our projects, and they're giving us, also their manpower and people power. We're also getting a lot of help through the professors who are giving us information and help with evaluations and whatnot with our projects. So it's a very beneficial partnership in that area. So I'll turn over to Craig now, who will tell you a little bit more.
Thank you. Thanks for having us tonight.
Welcome.
So just to talk a little bit about the transition, we are in 2 weeks. We have 2 weeks left of year 2. April 1st starts the second half of this 4-year grant opportunity. So we have year 3 and year 4 ahead of us. Part of our emphasis during the tail end of year 2 and early year 3 is to shift towards a more sustainable model. In year 4, this funding is going to run out, and we need to be able to figure out a way how to solicit funding mechanisms that can keep some of these initiatives going beyond the 4-year period. So as Walter mentioned, in June, working with Administrator Contente and Diane Williamson, we are going to transition from the town being the backbone agency to the Bristol Warren Thrive by 5, a nonprofit, being the backbone agency, and the town of Bristol will become one of the 5 primary partners with that. As Walter mentioned, the town of Bristol will still remain as the fiduciary agent of the Bristol Health Equity Zone grant, mainly because the Bristol Warren Thrive by 5, having it be a reimbursable grant, doesn't have the overhead capacity to pay checks in excess of $30,000 a month for some of these initiatives that we have. Also, the town remaining as a primary partner and the fiduciary agent also speaks to our initial grant application where the town of Bristol and the Parks and Recreation Department and the Quinta Community Center is providing the facilities as in-kind services as well, which we need to do a 10% match for that. So that's coming up. That's been our focus for year 2, and we're also moving towards year 3 for that, both leveraging the funding resources from the CDC, but also we have a lot of unfunded strategies that we've had a lot of success with, and some small grants from Roger Williams University, and we're actually in the process of applying for another one through the Rhode Island Department of Health as well, for our substance abuse awareness and prevention group to host some some addiction support services in town. We're also engaging our primary partners at a higher level in tail end of year 2 into year 3, where we're asking them, we've asked them to come on a rotating basis to this forum to create that, to speak to what they're doing in the community, not just with the heads, but with the organizations and the demographics that they represent in the community, so that we can create the institutional awareness of the health equity zone and the benefits and the impact that has on the community. We also are reaching out to our collaborative members, and we have working groups under certain topic areas for physical activity, food and nutrition, mental health and wellness, substance abuse awareness and prevention. And we've recruited these champions. We're kind of restructuring our collaborative so that we're paying these champions a modest stipend, but they're people from the community who are passionate about what they do and the topics that they're covering in their meetings, so that after year 4, that sustainability is there, and those people are still they're entrenched in place, and they're passionate about what they're doing, and they can continue to move these initiatives forward. The last piece to that is that as part of our ask for our year 3 that was funded, we've requested money for a part-time marketing coordinator to help us create that institutional awareness of HES throughout the community. And we've also secured a part-time grant writer to mainly train our collaborative members and our working group champions so that they can better understand how to go after these funding mechanisms, so that we can not only augment our year 3 and year 4, but beyond that as well. So we start year 3 on April 1st, and we're excited about continuing our work in town. Thank you.
That was all-encompassing. Thank you. That was really good information, seriously. It's a lot of stuff that you got going on, isn't it?
It is. Big benefit to the community. Excellent.
I just like addressing the sustainability of knowing what we have to look forward to going forward, because it's such a great program.
Yeah.
Well put.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Can we have a motion, receive and file?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks again.
Take care.
The next item is item I-2. This is provided by the chairman regarding a Fourth Amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding between the Town of Bristol and Roger Williams University.
So this is in front of the council this evening for your blessing. There were a multitude of meetings over the course of last year that included the Police Chief Canario, the former administrator, and myself. Ultimately, the president of the college and myself met one last time And a couple things that are major takeaways. Number one is thank you to the chief. It was your specifics that was able to, we were able to quantify exactly what the costs were. So what I'm talking about is we talked with Roger Williams, and we have a pilot agreement with them. The pilot agreement represents payment to the town of $150,000 a year, and there is increases to that of 1.5% for quick math. There's also other caveats in there that the university pays every 5 years, if my memory is correct, for safety equipment, potentially a vehicle, whether it's a fire truck, police, or upgrades to our facilities. After speaking with them, the increase from the 150 will have an extra $75,000 this year, an additional $50,000 next year, and then an additional $75,000 the year after that, which increases it's a total increase to $350,000. I think it's important to realize that the reason why the town started this conversation was to cover the costs that we're currently expending through police and fire directly. There are other costs, but it's also unfair to quantify their total. This is not just what the university gives the town. There's other dollars included with that. There's other give back that in fact, some of them were mentioned this evening. They are a collaborative partner with us. The town reached out because we were spending more than we were getting in regards to the pilot agreement. The university is interested in investing with the town, and they're pleased to be a part of their success. I wanted to make sure that I conveyed that well. But I'm very happy for this town because this additional funds will help us offset this wonderfully challenging budget year. And there's always a challenging budget year, but this will offset some of those things. So what we're looking for is this council's blessing to increase and accept these increases.
That's great. Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Make a motion to, got a second? Just say all in favor then.
Yeah.
So there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Well, thank you all for working on that, because it's a big difference
Good
It's-
job.
for us.
Thank you.
Chairman. Good job, Chief. Excellent. I'm glad you guys will be able to come to a meeting of mine. Really makes a difference. Appreciate it.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, is item I3. This is the annual request on behalf of the Armenian National Committee of Rhode Island to fly the Armenian flag on April 24th.
I believe we do this every year.
We do.
So I make a motion to accept and approve this submission.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next one is item J1, and this is the RFP number 854 for the solar energy consultant. There were 6 proposals that were received on time. The 6 are beginning with Colliers International of Madison, Connecticut, in the amount of $27,350. These are all flat fees. The second is from Meister Consultants Group, Incorporated of Boston, Massachusetts, in the amount of $15,000. The third from Clean Economy Development, LLC of Providence, in the amount of $10,000. The fourth from Cadmu Group of Waltham, Massachusetts, $22,410. The fifth from Sustainable Capital Advisors, LLC of Washington, D.C., that amount is $25,000. And the last is Competitive Energy Services, LLC of Portland, Maine, and their amount is $15,000.
So I'm going to make a motion, and there's a reason why to do with these bids, is to appoint the chairman, along working with Diane and the administration with these bids, because there's potential conversation that's ongoing, and I think we have to explore that outlet. And after we explore the outlet to see if funds can be actually maybe not even at a cost for the town of Bristol for this initiative, I think that should be identified first, and then go from there to make the appropriate choice with the bids that are submitted after that. So,
I'll second the motion. I just want to say I'm glad we're going out to bid on this solar energy consultant. This is a huge project. This is a pretty big deal. We don't want to, I think it's good to bring in a consultant that actually knows what they're doing and can guide us to make the right steps. So I'm glad we're moving forward on this project.
Is there any other discussion?
I just want to be clear in the motion. The three that you are appointing are authorized to act in the best interest of the town. Is that correct?
Yes.
It doesn't have to come back to the council.
No.
Okay.
Second?
So there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item J2, and this is for the spring tree planting project, bid number 855. There is one bid presented by Samuel Kinder and Brother of Bristol in the amount of $20,240.26.
Motion to submit this to the town administrator to act in the best interest of the town.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And the third is the Prudence Ferry dock repairs. This is bid number 856. The first is from East Coast Landscaping and Construction Incorporated of Portsmouth in the amount of $452,075. The second from Specialty Diving Services Incorporated of North Kingstown, Rhode Island, in the amount of $372,300. The third from New England Building and Bridge Company Incorporated of Providence in the amount of $448,350. And the final is from Sumco Eco Contracting LLC of Salem, Massachusetts, in the amount of $179,700.
Those are massive swings.
What does that? You always wonder what they see that's different when you see something that much of a difference between them. 179 to 200, almost 500.
What's this council's pleasure?
I move that we refer this to the town administrator for him to bring in the appropriate other department heads to act in the best interest of the town, which I would think would be the
DPW director?
DPW, yeah. And the harbor master, I would think, as well.
Yeah.
Second.
So there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank
You
you.
can tell him he's appointed.
Okay. The next item is the periodic report provided by George Champlin, who is one of the Barrington directors of the Bristol County Water Authority. This is item K1.
Motion to receive and file.
Second?
Motion to receive and file in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next two items are requests for executive session, which I'm assuming the council wishes to take up at the conclusion of the public agenda.
Yes.
Following that, we have the individual council member agenda items, beginning with the chairman.
So we've been on a roll with prerogative section at the end of moving it right along, and tonight will be no different. I'd like to suggest to this council that we look a little closer into using the Maritime Center for a little bit more of recreational facilities. So, for example, Walter has a bunch of programs that he doesn't have the space for. I'm aware of the youth soccer that is in need of indoor space for practicing, and take a look at using that facility along with how it's used. But that open space is really valuable. Inside space is difficult to get in the wintertime. I know that, like, for example, working with the school, Colt Andrews is where a lot of inside practices happen. So I'd like us to consider that. I know Walter's out there right now. He's got a couple of programs that he's unable to consistently fill because he doesn't have the space. So I don't want to augment the space in any way. I'm not suggesting that. Just use what's there and use it a little bit more efficiently. Jfc meeting is tomorrow. For those of you who don't know, JFC stands for Joint Finance Committee. That's a representation from Bristol and Warren to vote on the school budget. Councilor Tiska is the new chairman of the Joint Finance Committee. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So join us tomorrow and see that process move forward. We have budget meetings next week, which starts on the 20th. And those budget meetings include each department, and we go through step by step. And what happens is that on Monday, the proposed budget from the administrator is presented in front of the council, and then we go step by step and look at it and decide what we agree with, what we disagree with, what we want to change, and we make those steps through. So that process is as fun as you think it is, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't come. I really mean that. Come in, sit down, watch this process, and watch how it happens and why we make those decisions. I think it's really important. So, lastly, thank you everyone for your time this evening. I know we hit a couple of tough points, but we do respect the time given back to all, from all that give it back to the town. So we very much appreciate it. Thanks. Have a good night.
Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind everybody that Indy Cycle will be doing another e-waste collection this Saturday from 8 a.m. to 12 at the transfer station. So please, if you can, bring your stuff down there to the transfer station again from 8 to 12. So the last one was at Mount Hope Farm. It was a huge success. So just wanted to give that little announcement. Have a good night. Thank you.
Mr. Tiska.
Thank you. I just want to take this opportunity to say how much I enjoy serving on this council with all of you. So,
right back at you.
Thank you. And that's it. Have a good night.
Ms. Perella.
Well, actually, I have a few items. Sorry to do that, but first I just had a question for Chief DeMello, so I'm glad you're still here, and that is, can you give us a little update beyond what we may have heard on the news as far as Bell Tower? I saw that on the news yesterday. I understand the weather conditions and so forth, but it seems like it's the second time that we've had a similar situation in a year and a half or so. And is there just an inherent problem with that building? Is it not being maintained? Do you have any thoughts about it?
Sure.
Or?
So there's been two incidents, the
Right.
most recent yesterday.
Yeah.
And I've worked with the building official who's listed some engineers.
Chief, can you give clarity to what you're talking about? I know what you're talking about. But could you give
So we had
clarity?
the roof cave in at the Bell Tower Plaza on one of the vacant units, fortunately. That happened a year or two ago, a little bit away from that, so a different part of the building, but obviously now we have two, so that's highlighted some concern on the stability. So I met with and consulted with the building official. He's bringing in some engineers, met with the property owners today. Of course, we're trying to get that open for the business owners as soon as we can, but we want to make sure that it's a safe building before we put anybody else in there. So that's where it stands at this point. I think they're working diligently to get the businesses back open as fast as they can once we've assured it's safe.
And now they all closed, is that it? Is that what I understood from the news
At this
last
point,
night?
yes. I'm not sure if anything transpired this afternoon. There was a couple of engineers meeting there, and hopefully to, again, get them open as soon as we can once we determine that it's a safe building.
Okay, thank you. And then I just wanted to express condolences, Chief, to you and your family on your recent loss.
Thank you, Mary.
And also to the family of Roz Bosworth, whose funeral was a couple of Saturdays ago. As we all know, he was an icon as the owner and publisher of East Bay newspapers. And also to my former colleague, David Bates, who passed away last week, who was the state senator for probably close to 20 years. And he and I came into the Senate at the same time. And prior to that, Dave was on the Barrington Town Council for a very long time. So that was, I think, surprised everyone. I think he was only sick for a relatively short period of time. Also, his Bristol connection, as many people know, is he's the owner and president of A. Noon's Insurance downtown. So he spent a great deal of his time in Bristol and in downtown. So I want to express our condolences to both of those families, and also to the family of my high school teacher, Josephine Lero, that everybody kind of knew, I think, who also passed away last week. And then with that, I'd like to wish everyone a happy St. Patrick's Day, which is happening in 2 days, and a happy St. Joseph's Day, which happens on Sunday. I see I'm the only one, no one else is dressed appropriate colors. Tim a little bit with the red with the Italian side, but so I probably we're both like Irish and Italian. So with that, thank you very much.
Mr. Stewart.
You touched on a lot that I don't have. You did save time, because that's a lot that I don't have to say. The chairman mentioned the budget next week. One thing we're very fortunate here in the town of Bristol is our promotion and our tourism sector of many years and the hard work with all the departments, the volunteers, and the groups that are associated with, advertising our great town. With that said, through the conversations, through the budget, I just want my colleagues to be mindful in going forward that I might put something forward coming from the statewide initiative of a lot of resources and where they're going. Maybe we can get more money if we kind of not have a redundant thing with other partnerships, because we spend so much diverting a lot of the state money in other sectors. I think it's a crucial conversation we have to have and have a plan going forward, and maybe we can have more money coming from the state if we come to that proposal with all the entities that we're involved with. So that's just a conversation I just want everyone to put in the back of your head going forward, and even after the budget cycle. Also, congratulations to the Mount Hope High School boys hockey team for their Division III championship this past weekend. So congratulations to the coaches and the students. And other than that, happy St. Patrick's Day, happy St. Joseph's Day. We always say it, every decision we make in this chamber as a collective body, we take it very seriously. I know a lot of hard decisions have to be made when we're up here, but we do our due diligence and caution to every decision. With that, thank you, Mike Davis. Thank you, Archie Martins, everyone who came out tonight, and everyone tuning in at home. Thank you.
Town Administrator agenda items.
Chief, I apologize. I was going to say that earlier. Mary, thank you for bringing that up. We certainly, there was 2 people that passed away. There was a lot of people that passed away. 2 that I was going to mention was your dad. The other one was Roz Bosworth. And I'm going to, at the next meeting, I'll share a couple of things of some of the things he did, but you're one of the things that your dad did. So it's nice to see you here. We're happy that you're here, and we feel for your family. Thank you. Thanks.
Chief, sorry for the loss, and I knew your dad, and I know he was very proud of you, and I always used to enjoy seeing him come into the police station with a jar of freshly pickled hot relish, and he was a great man and a fine gentleman. I'm very sorry. Getting back to Bell Tower Plaza, we've been working today. Richard Pimenta was up there, our building official, all last night and all day today. Bell Tower Plaza had their engineer back there, and we've also retained the services of an engineer to represent the town and make sure that those condominiums are safe before they're opened up. The last word was that this afternoon was that by tomorrow, all of the occupied spaces will be opened, all but one, hopefully by tomorrow morning. Rite Aid is back open as we speak. I did speak with one of the partners of Salvador Capital Projects, and he reassured me today that their goal is to get the spaces filled with a variety of tenants that'll bring a vibrant feeling back to the site. That was one of my concerns I expressed to him. We had a lengthy conversation, and it's been brought to our attention. In fact, community development has been working on it and trying to get an answer why we have a number of empty storefronts there, but their goal is to get the building repaired. No major plans according to them, and they want to get it filled again. So that's where we're at with Bell Tower Plaza. And on a positive note, Monday is spring, and we're looking to get winter behind us. And that's it. Good night. Thank you.
The motion would be to convene into executive session pursuant to 4246-5A5 with regard to the lease or sale of real property, specifically the Gladding Azevedo property, as well as 4246-5A2 involving litigation with the Bristol Warren Regional School District.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good night, everyone. Thank you.